Another Baseball United event took place over the weekend in Dubai, the third major event they've held there, and the last one, according to schedule, until the inaugural season kicks off next fall. Can baseball make it in the Middle East? We've been asking that ever since this project was first launched a couple years ago, and it has yet to be answered. We won't know until they play a full season later this year. So far it's going alright, been some ups and downs along the way. I wouldn't call this most recent event a major success, but it definitely wasn't a failure. First, a quick recap of Baseball United's short history. The first Baseball United event in November 2023, an East-West All-Star Series, was not nearly as big as they'd planned. They converted a 20,000-seat stadium for baseball use, closed the upper deck seats, then reduced the number of games from 4 to 2, then closed off the outfield seats. And when the time finally arrived, attendance for both games was under 4,000, less than a fifth of the stadium seats filled. If you ignore the oversized venue, it really wasn't bad though. First major baseball event to ever take place in that part of the world, and they got almost 4,000 spectators. Not bad, really. Problem was their expectations had been too high, which made it look like a total failure. The fans were almost all Western expats, but the UAE is a majority expat country. The native population is the minority. Out of the expats, Westerners are not the majority, Indians and Pakistanis are, and they were noticeably absent from the crowd. But 3,000 some Western expats, that's a good crowd to start with. Then they could hope to lure in some of the South Asian expats and grow the crowd to over 5,000, maybe 10,000 someday. But one thing was clear, they had set their sights too high, trying to open in the country's biggest stadium, talking about 50 million avid baseball fans in the region. They got realistic after that. Instead of going through with the planned inaugural season in 2024, they postponed it to 2025, built a ballpark, a real ballpark, meant for baseball, with a reasonable capacity of about 7,000. Then last November they held an event that was more likely to succeed, a national team tournament dubbed the Arab Classic. 7 countries from around the Middle East and South Asia participating. In that part of the world, in a sport that locals are not familiar with, a national team tournament is more likely to bring in new fans. They may not know the game or the players, but they've got their home country to cheer on. That is enough. And that event was a success. Several games played over several days, a decent crowd every day. Some games more than others, but overall pretty good attendance. Mostly still Western expats, but there appeared to be more people from the local region. The year before there were almost none. Now there were more. That was progress. On social media too, a lot more comments from people in that part of the world, many of them obviously just learning about the game, the kind of people Baseball United wanted to attract. So that brought us to last weekend's UAE series. 2 of the original 4 franchises, the Arabia Wolves and Mideast Falcons, playing a 3-game series. They'd already succeeded with national teams competing. Now it was time to see how it would go with 2 professional ball clubs with almost no players from the local region. Just 3 games this time, a little test before attempting to play a full season with 5 teams. And they did alright. I'd say passed the test. Not with flying colors, but they passed, with the bare minimum. The play on the field was good. Wolves won the first game 6-5. They took the second game too, destroying the Falcons 11-0. Game 3 they made it a sweep, Wolves over Falcons 5-4. No wins for the Falcons. One game wasn't close at all. When I say the play on the field was good, I mean it wasn't sloppy. Good hitting, good pitching, good fielding. Results weren't even, that's all. But these games don't count anyway. Plenty of recognizable names, Robinson Cano, Didi Gregorius, Pablo Sandoval. Someone commented jokingly if this was the MLB Seniors Tour. Yeah, it can appear that way when you first look at the biggest names involved, but it's important to get names that people will recognize. At a minimum, you want to at least make sure you get all the people in the UAE who are already baseball fans to come out to the games. They're more likely to show up to see Cano or Sandoval than some no-name 25-year-old. I do wish there were some more young players, and not guys that dropped out of MLB or NPB. It would be really good for Baseball United if someone played there, then went on to play at the Major League level, or something like that. But the timing of this event, just before the start of spring training, just didn't work. Maybe next fall they can get some young prospects. It'll be right after the MLB, NPB, KBO seasons. But Baseball United will have to compete with the many winter leagues, 9 in the Caribbean, 1 in Australia, so it may continue to be a problem. Too many players on the way down, not enough players on the way up. Also would have been good to have more players from the Middle East and South Asia on the field, playing with and against these former big leaguers. I know there's not an abundance of Indians, Pakistanis, Arabians, whatever, who belong on the same field as professionals from the Americas and Japan. But for this series, where the games don't count, it would have been great to see more local nationalities represented. They don't want to do that next fall, they'll be trying to win. This was the time to do it. Attendance was good, no sellouts though. You gotta wonder how that's going to translate to a whole season's average attendance. The season's only going to be about 6 weeks, but that's still a lot more games than they've ever played. And right now they're still stuck in that 3,000 to 5,000 range they've had from the very beginning. That's the only 3 games Dubai will see for the first 9 or 10 months of the year. Anyone who has any interest in watching a baseball game was in attendance for this series. So a 60 to 70% filled stadium is about the most they can expect right now, which means that the typical regular season game will get far less than that. The fans who showed up over the weekend won't be there for every regular season game. So they still need to do a better job of getting people out to the ballpark. Easier said than done, I know. I don't really have a solution in mind, but they need to find a way. I will say this though, there were more fans from the local region this time, not so much dominated by Westerners anymore, so they do appear to be growing that group, but the growth may not be quick enough. With all these professional players being brought in from around the world, operating the ballpark, trying to market this league, all the expenses that go along with it, it's probably costing them a lot of money. At some point they'll need to make more money than they spend. I don't know how many tickets they need to sell to make a profit, but I know that the winter leagues can all get over 10,000 in attendance for a championship game. The exception being the Australian League, but the ABL spends a lot less than what Baseball United is probably spending. Players don't make much money there, most of the players come from right there in Australia. Major league organizations send several prospects every year to teams over there, and I think the major league clubs cover the cost of all that. So they can get by averaging just over 1,000 per game, 3,000 for playoff games. Baseball United will need to do much better than that. They did plan ahead for this though. I think they knew they were going to lose money at first. That's why they've got so many former major league stars involved in the ownership. It was about 20 years ago when the Canadian and Israeli leagues folded. They couldn't even make it to season 2. Both of them might have succeeded if they'd had more money, if they'd been able to withstand more losses and eventually start profiting. The Canadian League is a big warning sign that your league has to be managed right. They had a national TV deal, Fergie Jenkins as the league commissioner, plenty of local players with professional experience, in a country where people already watch baseball. But they couldn't get enough sponsors, and the cost of travel from one end of that huge country to the other was more than what they could make from TV and ticket sales. They didn't even finish the season. Baseball United made sure they had sponsors, and they're not traveling anywhere right now. All games will be in Dubai in the fall. The Israeli League didn't last either. Like Baseball United, they were trying to bring professional baseball to a place where baseball wasn't well known. And same results at first. Decent crowd, 3,000 for opening day, mostly expats. Players almost all imports. Problems? It was just one businessman trying to make this work. And they tried playing a 45-game regular season right away. Too much, too soon. Baseball United has a team of owners, and they're taking things much more slowly. They do a good job of making the games available. The series was streamed live on YouTube, and other platforms too, MLB TV among them. There may come a day when you don't need a big audience at the venue, and your primary revenue is from viewers around the world. But we're not there yet, not even close. Also, I don't think there's much attention coming from outside of Dubai. The live stream on YouTube, every time I saw it, had about 300 or 400 viewers. A lot of Japanese comments in the first game. Game 3 looked like mostly people from the West. Game 1 right now has 10,000 total viewers. Game 2, 9,000. Game 3, 5,000. A step down from the Arab Classic a few months ago. The Pakistan-India game had more than 20,000 viewers right after it ended. Now has 49,000. Over 100 comments, mostly from Pakistanis and Indians. So the excitement from the Arab Classic did not carry over to the UAE series the way they thought it would. Same thing on X, or Twitter, whatever you call it. Almost no replies to Baseball United's posts. Last time there was more interaction. I don't know about the other social media platforms. Fill me in the comments if you got an answer to that. I do like the ballpark. It looks like a great atmosphere, and a great show they put on. Must be great for the people in attendance. I hope that atmosphere draws those fans back to the ballpark again and again, especially those new to the game. One complaint, and many others pointed this out, the audio. They couldn't seem to find the right volume. The announcing, the music, all seemed unusually loud in relation to the atmosphere. It's not the biggest deal, I'm sure they'll get it right eventually, but when the volume doesn't match the crowd, it can look quite amateur. So overall, attendance was okay, but interest from outside the UAE through streaming and social media is way behind. The eventual goal of this league is to have these teams traveling from Mumbai to Karachi, to Dubai, to Abu Dhabi, to Riyadh. But right now they're getting very little interest from outside the UAE. The Arab Classic proved that it is possible to get people in those countries to take some kind of interest in baseball. But that was for national teams. It's not yet working for professional ball clubs. Which is bad news because the next test for Baseball United is the regular season, and that is about 8 months away. Anyway, that's all for this one. Until next time, this is Baseball International. See ya!